And we see that in the Army of Mexico, they are buying from Israel and using it against their people. We see them practicing the infrastructure, like the walls that they build around our land in Palestine. We see them implementing the same construction companies and tactics along the border of the United States and Mexico. And all these things are interconnected. And it's not just about what's happening in Palestine, because what's happening in Palestina affects Mexicans. Israeli government and the United States research a lot of the weapons and spyware on the Palestinian people, and they sell them to other countries.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Mi nombre es Eric Monroy y estamos aquí al lado de la calle con...
Hola, me llamo Nura.
Yeah.
Omar.
Nice to meet you, Omar and Nura. Me gustaría preguntarles, ¿ustedes qué sienten que la comunidad mexicana les dé un apoyo como palestinos en contra del genocidio que están sufriendo?
For starters, right now this encampment is incredible. The protests we've been seeing in Mexico have been very principled and inspiring, and we want to see more people demanding that Mexico as a country, as a nation, sever ties with the settler colony of Israel. And the more pressure and boycotting certain companies like Nestle, and preventing companies that take advantage of people not only in Palestine but also in Mexico, and applying financial pressure, and also just general education for the nation about how the weapons industry that researches a lot on the Palestinian people, using them as a test subject. The Israeli government and the United States research a lot of the weapons and spyware on the Palestinian people, and they sell them to other countries. And we see that in the Army of Mexico, they are buying from Israel and using it against their people. We see them practicing the infrastructure, like the walls that they build around our land in Palestine. We see them implementing the same construction companies and tactics along the border of the United States and Mexico. And all these things are interconnected. And it's not just about what's happening in Palestine, because what's happening in Palestina affects Mexicans.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Would you like to add some?
Just about the boycott, I came here trying to avoid all the products. I thought there would be a lot of options, but what they do is they rebrand a lot of the company names here in a different way. Like Lay's here, Sabritas, ACL, the water is Nestle. Almost all of the
Products in the market.
products like is Unilever. Unilever is another big company. Like you go to a like deodorant and stuff like that. It's hard to find now Unilever. McDonald's, KFC, Starbucks is a big one. All those the more we could boycott, the better.
All the things that we as Mexicans love are supporting the genocide in Palestine.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the yummy foods, the hot chips.
PepsiCo, all that. Pepsi, Coca-Cola, it's so many stuff. But the beautiful part is there's alternatives, There's other things like Red Cola is delicious. I
Totally
love it.
Mexican here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. And you support your own economy, When you buy other Israeli products, you're supporting Israel and not Mexico. It's your country, support and find the companies that are local so that you can help your own country, So that's what we always like to spread the message of.
I want to know, some people in Mexico say that Mexican people will not care about people like you from Palestine or from another part of the world, because they say that in Mexico we have so many problems, so many debts, so many poverty. How would you explain to this kind of people that it is important to protest here in Mexico for what it happens in the world, in Palestine, for example, at this moment?
Yeah. So what happens is that in Palestine, how they test different spyware, different tactics of fascism, they make sure that they work on the Palestinian people and they sell that research and technology to other nations. And so when we see an uptick in surveillance of the population, we can find the source of where they develop these technologies, and they develop them in places like Tel Aviv University. And so when we're asking for the Mexican people to cut ties, like at UNAM, for example, to make sure that they do not engage or have any partnerships with these oppressive universities who are basically the research and development for the entire weapons industry.
Yes.
And so if you want to protect your people here, if you're noticing that in Mexico there is heightened militarism within the police officers and in terms of why are they walking around with machine guns in front of the store? This comes from a global militarization and global imperialism that's happening, and we are not isolated. Many of us are experiencing the same thing, just in various degrees. Right now, what's happening in Palestine is just the most extreme form that we're seeing. And if people don't stop it now, it might happen to your people. So stop it before it gets worse.
I totally agree with your poster. Would you like to add some more?
I would say that there's the strong forces in the world that are always trying to steal resources from all the countries, and we're just seeing the results of that in Palestine. That's why Israel, as small as it is, it's very powerful because, you know, it has the backup of the United States, and we know the United States goes in the, you know, they have a lot of history, a lot of bad history with stealing all countries and from all the countries in the world, whether that's Africa, South America, or colonization, Middle East. So you know, the more you help other countries there, the more we can have a more balanced society and world where there's no one strong force in the world. It's every country with its own, you know, autonomous control and no influence from the United States, you know, because the United States has become so strong. All the countries rely on the economy of the United States right now to survive and to have a good economy themselves. So we want to break the imbalance there and make it more balanced all across the board. So right now, this is kind of a really big issue that affects everybody because of how, you know, concentrated and how important it is for the United States to be able to have the control that it has today.
They have so many impacts in Mexico and all the world. What do you think is the role that the international community take in this conflict? For example, Mexico, how will this kind of movements in Mexico all help to solve the situation?
Right now, this is a campaign to pressure financial divestments. If we believe that the reason that imperialism exists and takes our resources is to make a few people very rich and make the entire world basically under their control, it's our job to recognize where is it that we are contributing to this oppression and where is it that we can demand larger entities like our governments, like our institutions, to have a much bigger pressure than we as individuals can have. And so encampments like this are telling the university that starting with this university, and I know how influential UNAM is, that if UNAM takes a stand and UNAM demands divestment and cutting ties, then the other universities will follow. And hopefully the people that are engaged with this political movement and liberation struggle will then demand that their country and their government follow suit, and that other countries start following suit, and hopefully that we can finally be liberated from the imperialists.
No, I think her answer was pretty thorough. Yeah, it was pretty nice.
That's a pretty nice answer.
With the school paper or with the newspaper?
No, I'm a journalist. I'm independent.
Nice.
I have a YouTube channel, so we are totally free for a line or something like that. The medias that he represents are the problem here in Mexico. They lie, say manipulation, information. Israel president said that these kind of movements in universities are looking for anti-Semitism movement. Do you think that is that affirmation right? Or?
I think so many people have answered this question in the news, and I'm Palestinian. I never and never will have anything to do with the oppression that the European people did to the Jewish people, and the European people have to pay for that. Nothing to do with me. And that's all I'm going to say about it. So many people have been saying that Jewish students, especially in the United States, are experiencing so much support, so much camaraderie, so much love from the wider community. And it's inspiring to see so many Jewish students come out in support of the Palestinian liberation movement right now.
Yes, it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. As she mentioned, it's that terminology is from Europe back in the history from when they, did perform the genocide against the Jews all across Europe. Right now, our case in Palestine is all we see are people that don't belong there. They came and they colonized the land, and we see them as enemies because they came and it's like coming to your house, stealing your house and putting you out in the backyard. Like, okay, you can have this little piece of the backyard, Doesn't matter who it is. We don't care if they're Jewish, Christian, Europeans, Mexicans, Africans. We don't care. It's the people that are causing the oppression that we want to resist against. So it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. We have Jewish people that side with the Palestinians.
Sure.
Are the Jewish people anti-Semites too? Are they? How make it make sense? How does that make sense? That it's when the media says anti-Semites, it's to make us look bad, and it's to push their agenda and to make us as the enemies, and we are the problem. But it's all a lie and it's all propaganda.
How do you feel about to see that protests in United States, in France, in Germany are being repressed with physical and legally? How do you feel this kind of repression for their governments?
I think it's on brand for these fascist governments to repress their people. I think we need to collectively, and we outnumber them. I think the people outnumber the militaries of these fascist regimes. We outnumber, we have more power than they do. And I see people like in the United States, in Germany, regardless, in France, that they are standing up and they are realizing how powerful that we are when we are collected together and we are strategic and we are smart in the way that we defend ourselves against these oppressive powers. And we're seeing that people no longer are willing to just get beat up without fighting back. And I think that this is inspiring and it is motivating to see people finally rising up and fighting back. Yeah.
I think the European countries, they had the problem with being anti-Semite. They already fixed their problem by pushing their problem onto the Palestinians. Now, if the Palestinians fix the problem that they have, that means the problem that the Europeans had initially is going to come back. So that when they say they're with the Jewish people, or the Zionists, I should say, not the Jewish people, it's because they don't want them to come back to their country, because they're the true anti-Semites, not the Palestinians.
Jewish people have a right to their land too.
So they definitely have a right to their land, but the way that they did it in Palestine is criminal, it's illegal, and it was through terrorism,
genocide,
and genocide and ethnic cleansing. The UK just mandated that they can take it. President Kennedy in the States, he was killed. He had a lot of reasons, but he mentioned something that the UK, Palestine wasn't theirs to say that the Zionists can take it. So even the presidents back then, when they say that, they get murdered and killed.
Even they said Princess Diana, they murdered her because she wanted to support the Palestinian.
There's so many leaders that were killed because they spoke out the truth and
with another vision of the problem.
Exactly. So there's so many little evidences, and when people research and learn the truth, they know exactly what the problem is and where it came from.
I would like to ask you, how old are you?
30.
30. And you?
25.
25. Do you think that in the world, all around the globe, there is a new generation of people that we are messing up with the government, with the problems, and we born, and we want to make a change? Do you think that there is a new generation in the world?
Yeah, I think also the having social media now has connected people across the world. And we see places like TikTok, which is why they want to ban TikTok in the United States, is because people are educating each other and they are seeing with their own eyes that the propaganda that they've been feeding them is causing people to get hurt, and they no longer want this reality. So they're teaching people about a world where we have liberties and we have freedom and we are not oppressed and we have our needs met. People have food on the table. People have a roof over their head. We have the freedom to travel. There's no such thing as my passport is stronger than yours. There are no borders. There are no militaries cracking down on anyone who says something against the government. And this happens because the world is connected. This generation has nothing to lose anymore. And so that makes it, what do we have to risk? Not much.
I think the new generation is definitely looking better because of the propaganda is a lot harder to spread now than it used to be back then when you didn't have social media and the news outlets can control whatever they want to say. And a lot of those news outlets are owned and are Zionist and Israeli in and of themselves, or they have big contracts with Zionists. And so now it's harder to censor the truth, where you have, journalists like yourself where you can just speak the truth without having the ulterior motives that the big companies, the media has. So thanks to these social media outlets and the connectivity that the world has with each other, there's a much better understanding as to what's going on. And I think the future is looking better thanks to all of those reasons. And it's really the older generation that are still ignorant, and they're stubborn to understand anything different from what they learned when they were younger. So, it's definitely looking a little bit better, but hopefully it'll only continue.
Yes, I think that our generation have the responsibility and the opportunity to really make a change to the world, because so many people around the world are very messed up with this problem, with this kind of lifestyle. So we want to make a change. And thank you so much for the interview, Nuria and Omar. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.